It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job, episode 96. Today, my name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
Our guest this morning is Steven Cabaj, president of ETS. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Steven? Good, man.
Thanks for making the drive up from San Diego area to hang out with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
So give us a little history, kind of how you got started in this industry and the road to where you are now as president of your own company here at ETS.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just give a quick background of what we do, what we specialize in. So we're in electrical construction, right?
Okay.
So we focus on low voltage building automation systems. So that's HVAC control, or known as direct digital controls, as well as fire alarms and security and access control. That kind of runs the main gamut of what building automation is.
Yep. And
so we actually are the electricians that go and work with the vendors,
Mm-hmm.
like Siemens or Johnson Controls, and we install their systems for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not doing the actual wiring of the building; it's more just the control systems for the property.
Well, we're doing the wiring for those control systems.
Right.
Yeah,
but not for the outlets or for all.
Oh no, not for
the
the high voltage work and anything. Really, the voltage range we work in is no higher than 24 volts in general.
Wow.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Very awesome. So how did you get started in construction or in as a contractor back in the day?
Yeah, what pulled you in?
Family business.
Yeah.
As in many cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my father actually he started his own controls company back in 1996. He had been in the business for maybe 12, 14 years before that. He came to this country and in 1981, maybe 19 years old, and then eventually landed in a company, I believe at the time it was called MCC Powers, and they went through a few acquisitions. It ended up becoming Siemens by the 90s. That after that many management transitions, I think he just felt it was time to start his own company. I believe by then he was operations manager for the Siemens branch.
Okay.
So then, he started his own company that was called Electronic Control Systems. They actually acquired a line, a product line that they could sell. And so they did the full turnkey system. So that was engineering, design, programming, startup, and installation. And so we focus only, my company now focuses only on installation. But I'll explain how we got there.
Right.
So that was 1996 when that was started, and by 2014 they had grown to close to 200 employees.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Down in San Diego also.
In San Diego, only in San Diego.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they were doing work all over Southern California,
but based out of San Diego.
Out of San Diego. Yeah. And so he sold his company in 2014.
Were you working for them?
I was actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I had graduated college, mechanical engineering, went straight to work for him. And I was a systems engineer, so I was in their engineering department. And that same year, I was working there for 6 months maybe, and then he sold it. But I stayed on for a couple of years, and then by 2016, we decided it was time. I'd always wanted to start a company. We always wanted to kind of continue the family business, but things changed, and so we decided, it's a good opportunity to start a new business, and we realized. Now,
when you're saying we, is it you and your dad still?
No, he's out, but he obviously helped me in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's hard, even though.
Yeah, I know.
It's so hard without any kind of help.
You need capital, man.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we decided that was the right time, and within maybe 6 months of starting it, I had no direction. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but we realized that was a good niche to fill, specializing in just the low voltage installation of these building automation systems.
What was it that caused you to realize that the installation piece should be the focus for ETS?
What we realized is, so when my two partners were actually his two of his project managers, who they weren't owners, so they didn't really they weren't owners of the other company that he sold. So they I think we realized, like, what do we see as a major pain point in the industry? And they had actually hired subcontractors when they couldn't man up the job with their own in-house crews. they realize, oh, we need to use installers. So maybe I think that's a good that's a good position to fill. I think that's a good line of business to get into.
That makes
So, and it's probably, and obviously it's you're not having to do a lot of selling, right? They're doing the selling, and you're partnering with them to install. What was that? What was that process like of creating those relationships so that they knew to call you?
Oh, well, it was it took a year or two to really get into that kind of trust position, especially because we literally were reaching out to our former competitors.
Right.
So that was, there's a lot of reluctance in the beginning to work with you, but you over time you develop trust. You have to be competitive, and eventually they start just reaching out to you. You don't have to go and try to find new customers all the time. At some point we're so busy just responding.
Answering the phone. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you obviously had some expertise and some knowledge of everything beforehand. Is there training these companies do, or how do they make sure that you guys are installing what they're doing correctly and troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff?
Ideally, we like to do project kickoff meetings. They've seen, a lot of them. It's a small. San Diego's a small town, so they know, they've seen our installations before. They know what our people were capable of doing. Right. So it wasn't like they needed to go and show exactly how everything was installed. But everyone represents our customers represent different product lines. So there are different, there are differences in what they require versus, one customer versus another. But for the most part, we started off on smaller projects. We would afterwards try to discuss what we did right, what we did wrong, and we try to build from there.
Are you getting more of your work from the products and the supplier or the vendors there, or are there GCs calling you because they've seen you guys work before? Where's most of your business coming from?
Most of our business is coming from those vendors. So the controls contractors, I call them, the ones that actually represent those product lines.
So when a GC uses one of those vendors, they say, "Hey, just so you know, we're going to use ETS to install everything," and
that's typically how it goes. Okay. Yeah, and we have to get onboarded because in many ways we're representing the company we work for early on. Right. So we have to. They know who they tell them that we're going to be their installers.
That's nice. I mean, you don't have to worry about bidding or doing a lot of that stuff for the GCs if you're already got an in with the vendor, and you just kind of walk into the job without having to go through the whole bidding process the most of the time.
Yeah. Well, we still have to go through the bid forms and everything. But
you have to do.
But at that point,
the reason
you're kind of favored at that point, though, I assume, right?
Yeah, typically, yeah. But we have to go through the bid forms and all those special requirements to help our customers in filling out their forms as well. Right. So it just makes sense having it in the same format.
Very cool.
Yeah. And more and more, we're working directly with mechanical contractors as well.
So like the HVAC guys.
Exactly. Because there's a lot of new types of systems that require wiring and doesn't necessarily require
some of those guys don't have electricians on staff, right? I mean, they're just sheet metal guys or installers, I guess, but not true electricians that do a lot of the more sophisticated stuff. What kind of employee count are you guys running in the field right now as far as
we're over 30 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So we grew it from 2016. Summer of 2016 is roughly when
you guys got going.
When we got going, but it wasn't until roughly June of 2017 where we really started winning work. And so by the end of 2017, we had about 10 employees. And then by the end of 2018, we had at least 24. By the end of 2019, it was 30. And now we're only a few more people than that right now.
So when you're looking for people, obviously what you guys do is pretty technical and specialized, right? I mean, and not to knock any painters or drywall guys, right? But you're not just throwing up a product. I mean, there's some technical stuff behind it. What are you guys looking? Are you looking for any kind of experience? Are you looking for, what is it first that you guys look for when you're hiring somebody?
So first, most of the people that we hired early on were people that we already knew, right? Who were maybe former employees of the old company. Yeah. So we were able to draw a lot of the experienced people from there over. But as far as newer employees or greener employees, We actually like to put people through apprenticeship programs.
Okay.
So we have a solid group of people who are either trainees or apprentices. So we put them through schooling. It's totally optional, but we prefer it that way.
Yeah.
How long does that normally take for somebody to go through that process?
Through the formal apprenticeship program, it's a 3-year program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
And you guys have it all set up in-house to do all that?
actually, no,
or do you guys send them off?
No, we're a member of ABC.
Okay.
Yeah, so we go through their curriculum and everything, and
Right.
yeah,
And are they in that 3-year period? Are they working for you guys, doing a lot
Yes.
of hands-on stuff?
yes, they are. So all their on-the-job training is with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and
And
we
you-
also do well before the pandemic, we were doing optional monthly trainings.
With
So-
your staff.
Yeah, with their staff. So, and we were getting pretty good turnout. 10 to 15 people would show up.
Is there a reason you do it optional versus mandated?
Yeah, we'd like to see who shows up. Really.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you get more
Yeah.
buy-in when you
Right.
have a volunteer
Yeah.
as opposed
Right.
to you have to be here. I mean, they'll come, right?
Right.
We
They wanna
don't
keep their job.
We don't
but-
want to force people to
Yeah.
give up their weekends. They really work
Yeah.
hard out there.
Yeah.
During the week, and it's tiring. I've done only a few days of actual work myself in the field, and it is so exhausting
Oh,
sometimes.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So but I don't want to. We don't want to take their weekends from them.
Was it like the entire weekend, like once a
No.
month kind of thing? Or
It was once a month. Just it was really mostly a Saturday morning. We would start around 8 or 9 and go for 3-4 hours.
okay.
Yeah.
And are you guys doing those on your own and creating the curriculum there, or is there somewhere you guys are pulling from to run those meetings?
No, it's all done in house. But I do get I base the curriculum off the ASHRAE learning guides. So ASHRAE is the American Society.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
you guys know.
Right. Yeah.
So I base it off their learning guides because they have very specific modules on controls, DDC
Right,
controls.
right.
So I wanted to have that kind of structure that the industry is generally
right.
it's a generally accepted guide. So
And you guys are seeing that you guys got pretty good turnout for those. Are they more the more experienced guys that just want to stay up to date, or is it some of the newer guys that are showing up to those?
it's mostly newer guys, but
Yeah.
we do see a couple experienced guys just come. I think just to be around. It's
Right.
it's
Kind of help out too.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually it's very beneficial when they come to because we can actually come up with examples from the field.
Yeah, and use them
And lean
yeah.
on them a bit. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what kind of management structure do you have there? I think you said you started with a couple guys that were project managers that are kind of your partners now. Are they?
Mm-hmm.
What's the management structure look like from your management team that helps you out?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm the president, the also majority owner. Then those 2 project managers I mentioned, they're also my partners, and they basically run the operation.
Right, right.
All this field work
Yep.
and
Right.
coordination, and so they each have their foreman and their crews. Each have roughly 12 to 15 guys, and most I would say each one has roughly 4 to 5 pretty qualified foremen, and each one of them has their smaller
Couple
crews.
guys underneath them. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then do you have any? Do you have office staff or anything like that
Yeah,
that
but
helps you out run all that?
Yeah, our office staff is pretty small. We're we have a small office. A few of them even work remotely.
Yeah,
Most of the
especially
time.
now. Yeah.
Especially now.
Was it before that too? Before COVID?
Before that,
that they were working remotely.
one of them was working entirely remotely, and then the other 2, they were working. I didn't require them to
Yeah.
actually come into the office every day. So one of them was working, 3 days a week in the office, 2 days a week in the office, the other time at home.
Right.
And it's roughly the same. But there was a time where I think from March to June, I didn't let anyone in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Except
it's
for
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
except for our accountant. There was things he had to do at the office.
Right.
So
Right.
he would
Yeah,
he
keep
would
the
be
ship
in.
afloat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What did you guys see from a workflow standpoint through this process?
We were pretty lucky. We did see some projects get postponed or even canceled.
Push back a little bit. Yeah.
But for the most part, we stayed pretty busy.
Do you think that was because of the essential portion of construction overall, or was it? I mean, what was that contributing factor to keeping that steady flow of business continuing?
It's so hard to say. I think people are pretty optimistic that life will get back to normal
Right.
at some point. I think also in San Diego in general, there's a strong, biotech, like life science market.
Yep.
And so that kept us pretty busy. And that didn't really slow down at all.
Right.
You have a lot of companies that are actually, working on vaccines and all this stuff.
Which require,
it requires that kind of facility, their actual facilities to keep running. So
is most of what you guys are doing new construction, or do you guys do a lot of remodel and I guess refreshing of a lot of
right now systems? We're doing a lot of TI type work. Yeah. There's still a good amount of new construction though.
So I would have to imagine part of that process then was, hey, these buildings are empty. Let's get in and update them or finish them out while people are out of the office, during that COVID portion. Was that, you see that as part of?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of that right now.
Right now?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was mostly a lot of projects that were still ongoing or
just finishing them out.
Just finishing them out, or even projects that had already been funded that were just starting up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you, so you're kind of involved, or you got probably your finger on the pulse of commercial real estate, I guess, more than a lot of other contractors. But with this, and I mean, with your company too, I mean, people have been staying home and, maybe people don't need as much office space or maybe downsizing or stuff like, are you seeing any of that in the market right now, or is it maybe too early for that?
I know it's inevitable. I'm not seeing that entirely, although there have been some pretty big developments that I've seen scrapped, not entirely, but
on hold,
on hold, or
large
commercial projects that were greatly reduced in scope and size. Yeah, some pretty large developments. But
is that because, do you think that they're maybe not scrap, but are they kind of putting it off because they're waiting to see where the market's going to go? Like, I feel like the fear is, especially with what Mike's talking about, with so many people now working at home and thinking like, well, maybe the commercial real estate portion of that is going to change dramatically over the next couple of years, and maybe an election, all these different things, these contributing factors with COVID and all that. Do you think it's because of that, or is it, what, I guess, because you're out there, right? We're in here, so we're trying to get more of like a pulse or a beat on the pulse. What do you think?
I think that developers, people who are really pushing projects forward, are simply reconsidering. They're rethinking the design of the facilities that they're building. Yeah. So whereas there's a perfect example. There's a project that we're bidding on right now, and the design from about a year ago included like a restaurant, a fitness center, and more tight office spaces. And that a new design just came out about, a month ago, and all those extra amenities, they're gone. Yeah. We've seen there was a big development in downtown San Diego that was supposed to take place, and most of the development has turned into a biotech type, like life science type hub, and only a fraction of it is now what it was intended to be, in the last 5 years of planning, which is what it was, like a hotel, retail space. So that's how things are. Yeah, it's completely being
revamped.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rethought and
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like for so long, and not even so long, but the last like 15, 20 years, in terms of like the commercial space has become more, I feel like Google, right? You get the kind of these, basically all these amenities that you could experience on the residential side at home, at least, but they're pushing it more on, towards work, right? So almost you can go home and sleep, right? You could eat there, you could work out there, you could sleep there. You know what I mean? And now, wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You could actually have that they're actually starting to kind of parse that back to kind of what it was before in a lot of ways. Like you go to work then you go live your life, right?
Yeah.
Well, because there's so many people that are not going to work anymore, right? They're
and I'm sure like, for instance, like fitness, right? Like, you're thinking like, okay, I just touched that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they say they're cleaning it, but I don't know who else touched that. And I don't want to get coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
So there's all those fears that kind of play into it. And it could be, they put it in and they install it and then nobody uses it. And it's just like highly unused space. And then they got to revamp it anyways and demo it and start from the beginning. Wow.
Exactly.
Weird.
Very weird. So outside of, the last 8 months, God, what's funny is we started
10 years, let's see.
Well, yeah. No, what's funny is we started these in February, right?
Right.
And, literally right before.
Wow.
So like the first couple months, it was like, hey, how's this last month been? And now we're in November. So now it's like, how have the last 8 months been? So I guess outside of the last 8 months, so the last year or so, right? Prior to that, what were some of the daily challenges or some of the struggles you guys had to overcome? Yeah, pre-COVID
PC.
stuff. Yeah,
Pre-COVID.
some of the daily.
Or maybe
things
the new BC. It will be like before COVID.
That's funny.
Feels like so long ago. I feel like
right?
we're still facing a lot of the same challenges as before. But now it's just different. Certain things like I think the biggest challenge for us, at least administratively, was a lot of our customers and suppliers moving their operations remotely. Sometimes not by choice all the time, but just kind of had to.
And that little communication lag that might come during that process. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that was probably a challenge for a lot of people is, this forced a lot of people to have to be okay with working remote, right? Even though that was kind of that was a pretty slow trend that was coming already, and even slower, like most things in construction, right? I mean, a lot of white collar business had already kind of moved to working remote or the ability to work remote on at the flip of a switch, but obviously construction, far behind that.
How do you do that, right?
And this kind of forced that though, right? Like it forced a lot of companies who maybe weren't comfortable with it to do it, but I have to imagine there was a bit of a communication lag or a that whole process slowing down a bit until people got used to it. Are you seeing it kind of pick up now? Are people being a lot more efficient with it now? Or
yeah. I think people are doing a really good job of adjusting.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of one of those things like you're forced to, right? You have to, so you got to make it work somehow.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing we like to talk about with people, especially since we're in a digital format here, is marketing in any sense. Are there things you guys are doing, be it digitally or out in the social media space to market? Is that something you guys have touched on or looked at? Not at all.
Not at all. No, I have.
Obviously, we found you on LinkedIn, so you're there at least. Yeah.
And maybe that's because I did do some modest work on on our LinkedIn page back in maybe August or July. But besides that, we were so busy just responding to our customers that I haven't felt the immediate need to really focus on a digital marketing strategy.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be, I think I've said it before, there's kind of, in my opinion, 2 or 3 different levels of, where contractors or this construction space are from a digital marketing space, like, right? Like kind of where you guys are where, hey, maybe we don't see the need or have the time for it. And then there's the people that have it, but don't really do anything with it deliberately. And then there's some people that are literally like social media companies that happen to do construction. And, but yes. And I think if that's a spectrum, right, I think the people that have to do it or that are doing it with a purpose are probably on the more residential side, right? Because that's where consumers, the B2C market really kind of drives. You guys are obviously a lot more B2B, so I don't know if it's, and so I would say like companies like yours are probably a little further towards this end of the spectrum, but just kind of fun to see where everybody is. And do you think it's something that you guys will look at in the future or focus on at some point?
100%. Yeah. I need to revamp our website because we created it in 2016. It's been 4 years.
Well, it's just one of those things. Like if you're not looking at it, almost on a biannual basis, like people are passing you up because there's so much changing and especially now in this industry, right? Like 5 or 6 years ago, you probably didn't even need a website as a contractor. And now it's one of those things where
if you don't have one,
it's almost kind of like, well, why?
Or
what are you hiding from us? Or why can't we see what you do? Or why can't we feel and touch and experience what you guys do?
Exactly. I think that's especially true, like you said, for residential contractors. Right. They need to be more visible because the residential market, there's a lot more potential customers.
Oh, for sure.
Well, and they want to see. Yeah, I mean that's their pride and joy, right? That's where that's their major investment. They want to make sure that their home looks. It's a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see it too from a commercial side too, right? I mean, what's to stop a general contractor, right? Like if you're going to work for him, if he's got all these bid packets in front of him, what I mean? Kind of just because that's the way things are going. Like maybe he looks you up, maybe he checks things out, right? So yeah, it's just one of those things where
Well, I'm thinking like Accurate Fire Stop up in San Francisco. They've developed, well, they've pushed so much towards social media, whether it's Instagram or, and they're all commercial, right? They do large commercial buildings, and so I'd say there's some of the rare kind of animals in that trade, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to get ahead like them and do something like that. Of course, it's just finding the time to do it.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, we're the same
Find
way.
the 25th hour, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not something easy. And like I said, I mean, if in my opinion, if you're going to do it, I think you do it with some attempt at being deliberate about it and making sure you do it with a purpose so it's but it's fun to see all the different, like I said, all the different where places that people are on that spectrum, especially in this industry that's, lags behind in so many other ways in most.
Yeah. So I actually want to rewind real quick. I want to go back to 2016, right? You had a website, or at least you're starting the website and all that. You started the business, but you said that I think it was June of 2017, you actually started winning work, right?
Yes.
So it was roughly a year basically of developing and getting the business, like starting to turn those wheels. And I'm assuming your two business partners were already involved at that point in 2016?
Not quite. They were, it was very, they had a more distant role. It was almost non-existent, to be honest. It wasn't until 2017 that they had a more active role, and even one of them wasn't active until 2018.
Okay.
So were they working somewhere else?
One of them was in the very beginning, and then eventually he made the transition. Right. Yeah.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I think I know where Brian's going with this, but I mean, just to interject real quick, I feel like that's smart, just because, I mean, without a lot of the work, right? Like you might not have been able to survive trying to support those two guys.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
It might not have lasted to June 2017, right?
Yeah. But yeah, in that first year from really opening up and finally winning contracts or executing on contracts, there was even, I would say, half of that was just trying to get in front of those customers, and then start bidding, and then finally, when you start getting an opportunity, you get more and more, if your pricing is attractive, and that eventually got us with our first couple projects.
So what did you find successful in getting in front? Because I mean, like in theory, this is a resource bank, right? This podcast is a resource bank for other contractors to listen to and get ideas from. But what were some of those things that you did that maybe you thought were successful in getting in front of people and maybe even those that getting to the table? Yeah.
A lot of it was just relationships and meeting with people face to face.
So luckily you didn't start a business in the middle of COVID where you weren't allowed to get in front of them face to face.
Would have been so difficult. Yeah. I would have had to really rethink my strategy.
Yeah. Zoom meetings, right? Lots of Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
You can't, the problem is though, like you can walk up to a door and knock on a door and hopefully they'll open it and you get to talk to them, right? Like you can't just randomly Zoom call somebody.
I know.
There's no,
why are they picking up?
There's no cold Zoom calls. Although that might be $1 million idea right there.
You heard it here first. So was there any sort of, in that year, was it intentional? I mean, when did you, I guess I'm trying to figure out, because part of it too is like he had mentioned, a lot of the listeners are contractors, and I'm sure there's the guy that's been through a couple different acquisitions that's thinking like your dad, I need to get out and start my own thing. So where in that space did you start actually trying to bid? Was it intentional? Like, hey, for this next few months, we're going to build our website. I'm going to start meeting with certain customers or potential customers, or what was that process? Or was there, I got to imagine.
Do whatever we can whenever.
Oh God,
we
more
need like
to
that.
Live.
I
need to eat tonight.
It was a little more chaotic. I wish I had time I wish I could really set aside like week-long blocks to focus on, an internal project or something. But no, if you have an opportunity, I have to jump on it.
All hands
Desperation
on deck.
creates creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the author of creativity. Yep.
So it's all about the customer and responding. So a lot of those other side projects you just kind of put on.
And you had mentioned you had to build trust at that point in time. So I'm sure there was a lot of rebuilding and like you mentioned before, like meeting with people and confirming that you were good to your word and that you were good at what you guys do, and then you won that first project, that first bid, right? And what What was that like? Oh God. Like, cause I imagine I remember starting a business years and years ago, and people would call me and be like, "Hey, can you do this?" And I would say, "Yes, I
sure,
can."
yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh God, I got to figure." And this is like before like really Ask Google, right? So I'm dating myself. So I would go to Barnes and Noble and buy books on how to do things. You know, so like, yes, I can, and let me figure out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that first project you didn't have enough staff yet. So did you have to hire on, or did you like what was that like? I guess tell me the experience.
Yeah, we had to use independent contractors, basically try to convince people to do some weekend work or after hours work,
just to help you
just
out,
to do it. Yeah. But actually within the, so June of 2017 is when we got our first, when we started doing work. By the next month, by the end of July of 2017, we actually finally hired a few employees in full time. And
that's actually a pretty quick turnaround.
It is. Yeah.
That seems, I mean, obviously you're scrambling for a couple months, but I mean that, it could have been a lot worse, right?
It could have been a lot worse. Yeah. And luckily the project manager, the first project manager who was really working full time, he also can, do field work. He can do field work. So that helped out a lot too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for ETS? Where are you guys headed? What's the goal in 3, 5, 8 years?
Yeah. So I'd like to bring on another project manager because we're getting more and more work. Yeah. And I think our project managers can be sometimes stretched thin. So that really takes away from their, general
oversight,
quality control. Yeah. Right. And it also, it can stress them out.
You want to help them.
I want to help them. Yeah. I don't want them to hate me when I.
Are you getting more and more work just in San Diego, or are you spreading out? Okay.
All over. Yeah. We're working with more companies from LA and Inland Empire.
So you guys are doing jobs all the way up there?
Yeah, we've done work as far as even closer to the Bay Area and Monterey County, San Luis Obispo County. Yeah. It's few and far between. Yeah. Not as many. But
I mean, the more you do, the more people kind of know about you, right? And that's
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say now about anywhere from 10 to 20% of our work is outside of San Diego County now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I can see why he needs a couple PMs.
Yeah.
So I already have a couple. At least there's one PM that I'm already looking at hiring in the next few months. So that's going to definitely offload a lot of stress from our project managers. Yeah.
Is that somebody who already is in that position at another company, or are they somebody that
was? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. That makes it easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's already the trust. We already know what he can do. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So any revenue goals or anything like that you guys are trying to hit, or is it just kind of take the business when you can and staff for it?
No, I'd like to grow a little bit, but really I'm focused less on the top line growth and more on bottom line. I think that's the most important. Now,
being efficient.
Exactly. So we're at a point where we already went through that really high growth. If you saw our growth,
you said from a few to 30 in a year and a half, right? Yeah,
exactly. So now I'm focusing on just really becoming as efficient as possible with roughly the same crew size.
Right.
We could add a couple people without experiencing growth pains.
Are there deliberate steps you guys are looking at to become more efficient? Are there specific areas where you guys are focused on to try and be more efficient?
Yeah, there's first is through technology, through utilizing different types of tools.
As far as like scheduling and labor control and all that kind of stuff?
Not as much scheduling, but more quality control.
Okay.
And like daily reporting. We work on so many different jobs every day on a daily basis that it can be really hard to track through just text messages and phone calls. Right. So I want to implement. There's a few apps we're looking at that it does a pretty decent job of allowing our field employees to take pictures, write notes, and send it off automatically.
Kind of store everything for you
and store it. Yeah. So and it organizes it. It's really it can be those types of tools. I think could be very beneficial and could also set us apart too. I think our customers, that's something they would really appreciate as well.
So like kind of status reports as the job's going on to be able to report that to the customer. Is that
or daily reporting? Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, and there's other stuff too. I want to. I'm looking into more project management tools also, specifically more dashboard type. Like if I want my project managers to be able to look at how their project is doing from the field from their phone.
Right. Yeah. Real time stuff. Yeah.
But it's actually quite difficult to find something that'll work seamlessly with our accounting software as well. That's
what we've heard is that there's so many different, I mean,
platforms for different.
It's hard to find one that maybe integrates or maybe you got to get a couple of them, right? So that you have, but either way, it's still pretty tough. But
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff out there from a technology standpoint. I just think that there needs to be some sort of collaboration to kind of get them all to work together. But
exactly,
hopefully down the road it'll get there.
I bet you somebody's working on it right now.
I'm sure. Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Well, we want to let you kind of let the people know where to find you before we get out of here. How do people get a hold of you? If you got websites or social media, or we talked about not much social media, but phone numbers or whatever.
LinkedIn is a really good spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I generally check once or twice a week, and I've been much better about actually responding. And
ETS is Electronic and Telecom Services
Systems.
Systems.
Yeah,
crap. Almost got it.
Almost.
Okay. Electronic and Telecom Systems.
Yeah, but it's somewhat of a misnomer because we really don't do telecom work. So it's
because nobody does that anymore. Everything's VoIP, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole backstory to why that's why the name is where it is. But ETS is how we're known.
And a website for ETS?
Yeah, we do have a website. It's www.etssys.com.
Cool.
And it will be updated hopefully in 2021. So it'll be a pretty accurate depiction of what we actually do.
Right.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Steven. We appreciate your time so much, and be safe out there, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, and check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.